When I tell you to think of the scariest horror movie monsters, you might think of vampires, or werewolves, or maybe even zombies. But for a lot of people, the scariest monster of all is clowns. Now, I personally am not scared of them, but let's go through who's the scariest horror movie clown. Welcome back to my Halloween Spooktacular. This is episode 7, and today we are going to be going through, as I said in the intro, the scariest horror movie clowns. We have a tier list here. I found 18 clowns from horror movies, which is a lot more than I even thought I could find, but I managed. And we're just going to be going through and ranking all of these clowns based on how scary they are, how iconic they are, how good they are, just in general. So let's get into the tier list. Okay, so here we are at the tier list. As I said, 18 clowns to go through. I was surprised I was able to even find 18. But starting off, we have the 1990 iteration of Pennywise. Now, Pennywise is easily the most iconic horror movie clown of all time. It's not even close. But the 1990 version, I think, doesn't get enough love. Because I think Tim Curry puts in a hell of a performance in this and actually manages to be pretty dang scary and even a little bit funny in some of the scenes.
Kiss me, fat boy!
So, I think he should be just as iconic as the Bill Skarsgård version, but unfortunately he's not. I'm still going to stick him in Nightmare Fuel because I do think he is an actually scary clown. It's just that, you know, the 1990 miniseries doesn't age that well, so it's not as scary as Bill Skarsgård's iteration, which we'll talk about right now. Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise. This is the easiest one on the list. We all float down here. Top tier. Oh, actually, I didn't go through the tiers, but, I mean, you can see it on screen, so I feel like I didn't have to. Is anyone going to argue that Pennywise is the best horror movie clown? I mean, maybe you have your personal favorite. Maybe you like Art better. Maybe you like Shorty the Clown from Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But nobody can deny that this guy is terrifying and he is easily a top-tier clown in horror movies. I personally, not scared of any clowns. I'm not really, it's just not, doesn't scare me. But if there's one that does, it's Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise. But I think I'm a bit desensitized because I've watched this movie like 40 times, so if anything, that's why I'm not scared of him, but I remember being at least a little bit scared when I first watched it. Now we have arguably the step down from Pennywise, but still the most iconic clown in horror. We got, you got Pennywise, and then you got Art. Art is another icon. You have to put him up into the top. I'm personally not terrified by him, but if there's any horror villain that's the closest to getting under my skin, like to actually make me feel something, it would be Art. Now, I fully think that there is not a single gory scene in movies that could get under my skin, unless it's happening to like a child or something, but unless it is like torture or sexual assault or something along those lines, those can get under my skin. I don't think gore can. Terrifier 2 was the closest to ever doing it. There was one scene, and you know what scene I'm talking about, and that was the closest I've ever been to actually being affected by a gore scene, so props to him. Now we have Stitches the Clown from Stitches. If you haven't seen Stitches, check it out. It's insane. It is an insane movie, but I am only going to stick him into the middle tier, into memorable. I think he's a great clown. I think he is an underrated horror movie clown. But as far as the best clowns in horror history, you can't put him any higher. Because, you know, I'm sure when I said Stitches, about 3 people knew what I was talking about, and it's because they saw the deadbeat kill count on it. But I love Stitches. I think he's an underrated horror clown. Now we have the clown doll from Poltergeist. Now, I didn't know whether to include this guy, but he is a clown, despite being a clown doll, so I feel like he counts, right? And this one's tough because it's literally just a doll that kind of freaks some people out a little bit. I'm going to stick him into Circus Clown. He doesn't freak me out. I'll give you something. Most people are scared of clowns and dolls. I am scared of neither. So he doesn't scare me at all. I get it if he scares you, but he's not scary. Now we have the clown mannequin from Hell House LLC. And this is, again, it is a clown, even if it's an inanimate object, but he might actually be like possessed because he moves around sometimes. But I do want to say something. Of the clowns on the list, this one is the one that scared me the most. But I think it's because of the scene surrounding it that it scared me so much. But I do think that this is a very scary clown. So I'm going to stick this one into Nightmare Fuel. I know it's probably just because of the scene surrounding it, and it is literally just a mannequin, but it is a pretty terrifying mannequin. Now we have Twisty the Clown, and unfortunately, I have not seen a single episode of American Horror Story, so I cannot fairly rate Twisty. But I can rate him based on how terrifying he looks, and he looks pretty damn terrifying. Now, again, haven't seen a single episode of American Horror Story, so I have no idea how this guy acts, how this guy is. But just looking at him, he's nightmare fuel. That clown is terrifying. I could see how that could be very scary. I don't like that in the picture I'm seeing, it's in broad daylight. I would prefer if it was a little bit more night, but broad daylight scares can be pretty good, effective too. So I'm going to stick him in Nightmare Fuel. Again, I know nothing about him, but he looks scary. Now we have Clown, and I believe this is Frowny the Clown from Clown. This is going to be your first entry into Beat It, Bozo.
Beat it, bozo.
He's not scary. I did not like this movie. I did not like this clown. I don't think he even looks like a very good clown. I just don't like this one. I'm sorry, clown, not for me. Now we have the Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Now, I was just going to go the Killer Clowns as a whole, just like all of the clowns together, but I decided to go and narrow it down. I narrowed it down to 4 unique clowns. Starting off with Shorty, and Shorty is the best of the Killer Clowns. He's my favorite. I think he's the cutest, and he's the one with the boxing gloves who has the knock your block off kill. So he's very iconic for that scene. But as far as scare factor, the Killer Clowns aren't all that scary. So I am going to give him memorable, but I can't give him any higher because, like I said, he's not scary. Now we have JoJo the Clownzilla. This is the monster at the end of Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and I love Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It is one of my favorite just 80s insane movies. But if I were to give you one complaint about this movie, it would be this guy. So I'm going to stick him into Circus Clown. I don't hate it. I don't hate it because it's an insane way to end the movie. But I've never liked this ending with the giant clown. So I would have preferred something else, but not terrible. Now we have, I believe his name is Jumbo the Clown. And if there is a killer clown in this movie that is the scariest, it's definitely Jumbo. Because the way he laughs in that jail cell after killing Mooney, I actually, like, that's the closest I was to scared of this movie. I wasn't scared, but it was the closest I was. So I'm going to stick him in memorable as well. Now we have Daisy and Rosebud.
Are you Debbie's roommate?
Yes, these are the female killer clowns with inflatable chests. They have inflatable boobs. I don't know how to say that without it sounding stupid. They have inflatable boobs. So that scene is memorable for a number of reasons, but I am going to stick them into Circus Clown because if they didn't have inflatable boobs, that scene wouldn't be that memorable. Now we have Captain Spaulding, and Captain Spaulding I think is genuinely scary. I think of the clowns we've talked about, I'd put him into that scariest tier. I think he's pretty terrifying. He's also like the most human, I think, out of any of these clowns. So I'm going to stick him up into We All Float Down here. I think he is one of the most iconic horror movie clowns. I think he is scary. I think Sid Haig puts in a great performance, rest in peace, and just gives this character so much charm, even while being such a sick and twisted individual. So I love him up to the top. Now we have the clown zombie from Zombieland. And this is another one that I was like, do I put it on the list? Sure, why not? Just pad the numbers. It's literally just a zombie that is a clown. Or was a clown. So he looks cool. Like, if you look at the picture, he looks pretty cool. He looks pretty intimidating, pretty scary. But I'm still only going to stick him in memorable because obviously, you know, a clown zombie is pretty memorable. And obviously, I did remember him and put him on the list. So I'll give him that. But otherwise, it's literally just a zombie. So up down there. Now you have the newcomer, Friendo the Clown from Clown in a Cornfield. Now, this is technically like 20 people, but we're just counting like as an idea, I guess. But just as an idea. So, Clown in a Cornfield, Friendo, he kind of has like the hair of 1990 Pennywise, the hat of Art the Clown. He has some of the makeup of Captain Spaulding. So he's kind of just looks like a combination of a bunch of different iconic clowns. But I really liked this movie, and I thought it was a pretty good slasher movie. So I'm going to stick him into memorable. Maybe if he gets a couple of sequels, maybe turns into a franchise, he could go up to Nightmare Fuel or even to possibly the top. But for now, all he really was memorable. Now we have Jack in the Box from Demonic Toys. And yes, this is a killer Jack in the Box, but if you look at him, he is clearly a clown, so I felt like he was deserving of the list. And I'm going to stick him into Circus Clown. I am a fan of a lot of Full Moon features. I have some fun with some of the Evil Bong movies. I like the Puppet Master series. Demonic Toys was the one that didn't work for me. I just didn't really like the movie, but I will admit he does look a little bit cool, but still, I have to put him down here, Circus Clown. Now we have this is the clown that I almost forgot to include on the list because he has so little screen time. He literally has like 5 seconds of screen time. This is the clown from Cabin in the Woods. And in Cabin in the Woods, you remember how they have that big wall with all the monsters on it? One of those says Killer Clown. And the Killer Clown comes out. And I'll be honest, for the 5 seconds you get of him, he's pretty scary. So I'm going to stick him in memorable. He's a pretty good, serviceable clown. That's what I'll give him. And now we have the evil Krusty doll from the Treehouse of Horror Simpsons. I love The Simpsons. It's one of the few adult cartoons that I think is actually genuinely funny. So I really like all the Treehouse of Horror episodes. I think that's a very fun, unique thing that they do. And I can't... It's a doll. It's another inanimate object, but it is Krusty the Clown, and I think it's basically just Annabelle, or a ripoff of Annabelle, but I want to put it up high. I'm just going to stick it in memorable, because if you've seen the Treehouse of Horror episodes, you do remember this doll, but it is an inanimate object. So I can't put it any higher. I just really love The Simpsons. That's my completed clown tier list. That's all 18, right? Yep, 18 horror movie clowns that I could think of. If I missed any, make sure to let me know in the comment section down below, respectfully, of course, as well as if you are commenting on my opinions, respectfully, of course, okay? And otherwise, comment down below some of your own opinions on these clowns, maybe some other tier lists you want to see me do in the future, and make sure to stay tuned for the rest of my Halloween Spooktacular, because this is episode 7, so that means we have 6 episodes left. So that means you're going to get a couple rankings, a couple more tier lists, and a giant ranking at the end of the month on Halloween. So stay tuned for that. Hit the bell notification to be notified when I post those videos. And until next time, I'm Ethan Horror. This has been Ethan Horror. See ya.